Hi, my name is Milo. I'm from Falmouth, Massachusetts, and I'm studying physics. I think physics and math are a very intuitive sort of combo to study both, but I think that specifically majoring in physics and minoring with math, that extra math really enhances the understanding of the physics. We have a few classes in physics that introduce math to us, but kind of at a surface level, whereas taking a whole math class about a particular topic, for example, linear algebra, not required for the physics major, but enhances your understanding of things like quantum mechanics and other sciences that really use that linear algebra. I had a lot of options for college, which was great, but I think the reason why the scales were tipped towards UMass and particularly the CNS were because, first of all, like Tier 1 research school in Massachusetts, I know we get a lot of funding for research, which is something I came into college knowing that I wanted to do. I had an amazing UMass tour. Out of all the schools that I did physical in-person tours, UMass totally crushed the competition. And so when it came down to I was thinking between the final few schools that I had gotten into, I think UMass clearly stood out as the best option for me. I think within CNS itself, I like how UMass organizes this giant university into these smaller colleges that are a little more approachable. And I knew instantly I would be within CNS, whether that was in the math department, in the physics department, something like that. That was still kind of up in the air at the time I made my decision to come to UMass, but I'm really happy I chose physics and stayed within the CNS. My mom's an art teacher and my dad's an oceanographer, and I think those two different sides really interplay in an important way. I think, from the scientific side, you get this really methodical way of looking at the world. But from an artistic side, I think there comes an appreciation and a creativity that really is necessary if you want to make any new, profound discoveries. I think a lot of the times in science, we tend to neglect that side of things. And I think true progress comes from recognizing that there's an inherent beauty in things, and oftentimes the right solution is the most elegant one. So I think one of my favorite, if not my favorite class I've taken so far at UMass was glass blowing. I think it's Natural Science 520 or something like that, but it was early in the morning in the basement of Leaderly, which is where most of my other classes are, so it's not too out of my way. And it was awesome. Day one, you're there with a blowtorch and rods of glass, spinning it into, little orbs and such, and then soon you're blowing little tubes and things like that. And I really enjoyed making these little glass animal figures like rabbits, squirrels, things like that. And it was just a great way to start my day with this creative outlet of glass blowing, which is such a cool opportunity. And then it was unlike any other class that I've taken here. So it was really sweet. I worked in Varghese Matai's lab. He's in the physics department. His lab is in Hasbrook on the 3rd floor. He studies soft matter and fluid dynamics within the physics department. What I was doing was working on an experimental design that actually was started by another undergraduate student. It was studying the airflow of people when standing in line, kind of inspired by the COVID pandemic, and how specifically the stop and start of line movement can create these cool airflows that aren't intuitive when you're just thinking about the way that works. This other undergraduate student built this experimental design, did an initial draft of the experiments, and then actually graduated before he was able to finish. And so I was kind of able to step in, revamp this experimental setup, and then do a bunch of formal experimental tests, and we were able to just submit a paper for review. Immediately post-college, I do hope to go to grad school. I'm gonna have to start that application process kind of soon, but it's exciting. I think I'm gonna hopefully continue to study physics, particularly fluid dynamics. Now, some schools have fluid dynamics in their math department too, so it's kind of helpful to have a background in math for that too. I think it's really cool because it can describe so much cool physical phenomena that we don't know a ton about. There are a lot of things that are really well understood, but fluid dynamics is not one of those things, so there's a lot of room to improve and discover new things. In terms of career-wise after that, I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. Part of me kind of wants to take after my dad and study the oceans. I think a background in fluids could be really helpful for that. But then the other side of me wants to maybe, work on turbulence and work with a Formula 1 car or something like that. There's so many options for this kind of research, and so I think that's another reason I'm drawn to it, is because I don't exactly know where I'm gonna go, but I feel like studying this will give me lots of opportunities.